You're listening to Making Data Simple, where we make the world of data effortless, relevant, and yes, even fun.
So hey folks, welcome to Making Data Simple. Today we're going to do something completely new. We're going to talk about data. So I lied, I was just kidding. But we're going to talk about data with an expert in the industry. I have invited Avijit Chatterjee. He is IBM Chief Analytics Officer for two huge enterprise clients. One is a bank and the other is insurance. Look, Avijit, thank you for joining us. I appreciate it. I've been to many client visits with you. You absolutely are an expert in the industry, and I appreciate all the knowledge you bring. Thank you for coming on. How are you?
Hey, Al, absolutely delighted. Thanks again for thinking of me and having this nice chat with you.
Yeah, you bet. Hey, why don't you introduce yourself? And you've got a long history. I mean, I don't know, was IBM your first stop? Because you've been with IBM for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. And I tell an interesting story every time someone asks me this, because I tell people spent more than half of my life in IBM. It's been 28 strong years. And this all happened when back in 1989, I was applying to University of Southern California. And my mentor, who was my thesis advisor, was an IBM employee. He got me a scholarship. I came in working as an IBM employee at the same time studying, doing my PhD. And it's been a fun, exciting journey since then. I've never interviewed for any other company, and absolutely 28 strong years and great years. With doing a variety of different things. Was in IBM research coming out of academia for a few years, went into active, what used to be called data mining in those days, because we call this machine learning. Data mining was what used to be called in those days, and I'll later tell you what the difference is, but that's what I did for several years. Went into healthcare life sciences for almost 8 years as the lead architect of IBM Healthcare Life Sciences Solutions. Went into mainframe. Believe it or not, I was brought on to be an out-of-the-box thinker for a strategic platform for IBM and start telling to our clients how can this platform differentiate itself. So spent almost 8 years as a mainframe evangelist. And then just at the cusp of when machine learning was becoming really hot over the last several years, I had the pleasure to be the chief data scientist of the data science elite team. And in that role, I had an opportunity to work with some leading edge clients with some really awesome use cases.
Well, I tell you what, and I'm not kidding you, when I've sat down with you with many clients, you are very good with the use cases. You've got a very firm grasp of the technology relative to those use cases. So you're wonderful to be with in terms of steering clients in the right direction to achieve their strategy. I got to ask you this before we jump in further. Yeah, how many years is that at IBM?
28 years, Al.
28 years. All right. No, I didn't mean to. And look, I'm not trying to pimp IBM here necessarily, but what's kept you here? You got to tell me. There's got to be a.
I have to tell you, it's the constant renovation. This company is brilliant how it renovates on every wave of the technology future. So if you think about what happened in the 90s, that was the age of what our CEO at that time, Lou Gerstner, called as e-business. There was no Amazon at that time, but he was so brilliant in foreseeing how the internet world would be all about e-business. And IBM was a leader in the space. We played our role there, being a leader middleware provider. We didn't go out and compete with the app providers like the SAPs and the Oracles. We were at the middleware to help enable that e-business ecosystem. Then from there into the 2000s, this was the whole idea of business process transformation. The entire world was having massive layers of business process transformation. And there again, IBM with the WebSphere, with the huge automation that we brought on, was again a leader in the space. And now we are at the cusp of a major revolution. We call it cognitive. The world calls it AI at the end. What we mean by cognitive is the fact that it's not a human versus machine, but it's the human and machine interaction. How does AI enable, again, business processes, in this case, AI instilled into every business process to make it totally transformative, to make it significantly competitive out there. Because today in the world that we live in, it takes you not too long to get disrupted because there's tremendous amount of disruption happening literally every industry. So being on the, on the innovation cusp to be able to transform a business in an agile fashion and leveraging AI is what most businesses that we in IBM work with is what we're enabling for them.
Very good. Well, 28 years or not, you got more hair than me, so you should be proud of that. What strikes me with you is you've got a research mind, but you're not one of these guys, these nerds that is, we're all nerds, but you're not like behind some closed doors and, with your lab coat on. You're able to get out in front of clients and really have a deep technical discussion in an easy to understand manner. So I got to ask you this though too. You were not so long ago when you and I were visiting a lot of clients together. You were part of the data science elite team, and now you've made the switch to chief analytics officer. Did our CDO, was he hard to deal with, or what made you say to hell with it? I'm going to go do something else. Of course, you're always transforming yourself. But.
No, absolutely. So you exactly said the key word there. I'm transforming myself. I had a long-term passion to work in the financial industry. It's just that, as a hobby, if you go read my tweets, I often talk about stock market, I talk about trends, and this came again from a passion that I've had as a young kid. As a young kid, my favorite subject was geometry. That's something that I would enjoy, solving these geometry problems. And as a result, my PhD thesis was all about geometry, multidimensional geometry. So with that pattern finding engine in my brain, I was always fascinated to look at Wall Street, to look at technical charts, look at how this industry works. Where there's always, as much as you think there's fundamentals that drive the industry, you'd be amazed that there's so much of patterns in the industry. And today, as a result, when you go look at the amount of money that the industry invests in technical analysis, in the aspects of machine trading, there is just more of science to it as well, as much as it's fundamental economics and how the world around us changes and so on. So with that passion, when this opportunity opened up, where I had the data science background, but now bringing it to an industry that I was always fascinated by, it was like a very cool transition for me to get to that next transformation in my career. So yes, it got me some strong leadership opportunities to work with C-level folks at some couple of very key leading IBM clients. At the same time, mapping their business problems onto technology that IBM brings to bear at the end help transform them.
Well, look, we're going to have to talk about some stocks here in a bit, because that is something I'm very interested in as well. In fact, a couple of my podcasts, we've had some chats. So hang on that for a second. We'll come back to that. But a couple of things I wanted to talk about. Clients you talk about today, and I've seen you in videos and blogs or otherwise. You outline the fact that they want one-on-one relationships, one-on-one types of engagements, and machine learning, AI, analytics lends to that. You also talk to many clients and how they can use different personas within their business, whether it's data engineer, whether it's data scientist, or whatever. Can you talk a little bit about where you see the industry at? You visit a lot of clients, but a little bit more of those one-on-one relationships and what personas, what their responsibilities are within those relationships.
No, absolutely. If you look at where the industry is headed today in terms of what are they catering to, they're catering to the demand of their customers. And who are these customers? These young generation customers are all about experience. And you can't blame them. The reason they're all about experience is today it's a shared economy. It's about everyone competing over everyone else to give you that unique experience. In fact, I go to every airport and I see a big sign there. Even airports these days are about experience to the travelers that traverse that airport on a daily basis. So when you're in an experience-based economy, what comes down as a key differentiator is how can I generate that experience by giving that customer what is called in the industry today as a celebrity experience. This is something that Forrester analysts coined. This was a brilliant idea that at the end, every customer wants to feel, the analyst's name is Mike Gualtieri. The idea there is to make every customer feel special, like that George Clooney kind of a celebrity. So which means if I walk into a restaurant, I walk into a retailer, that company that I'm about to do business with, knowing about me, knowing about my personal interests, knowing about the right thing in the right place in the right time, makes it a unique buying decision on my part. So when companies today have to cater to that, what's unique is today, thanks to the smartphones, thanks to all the gadgets that we carry, they have exact information about where I am at any given point of time. They also have information about what's in my mind. So I call this reading the customer's mind. So today, by being able to look at someone's tweets, their posts, of course, in the world in GDPR today, it's all about consent. You do require the client customers to give you that consent. But you would be amazed with the new generation customers. I'm not in that a generation older than them, but the generation today, whether it's the Generation Z or the millennials, they are active users of these social networks. And for the experience, they are happy to share the stuff that they have out there with these companies to then turn it back and give them that unique experience. As a result, you have companies like Facebook and the Twitters of the world so successful out there. The engagement model that they have with their clients is amazing. So that, at the end, becomes the crown jewels to be able to personalize that experience, that interaction that accompanies. So the fact that you have the insights about where the client is at any point of time, what's in their mind through what they say out there, as well as being able to constantly look at my changing behavior through the time tracking aspect of my transactions. Just looking at someone's transaction trail tells you a lot about what preferences they have. If they have to plan a vacation, are they an adventure kind? Do they go out there planning a vacation out climbing mountains? Do they go to the Africas doing safaris, or are they more of the beach resort kind of guys, loves to go Hawaii? And then if you're a credit card company, you can get the right credit card offers to them so that they will be using your card and not your competitor's card.
So here's what I got. New generation, once a client experience economy. I think you just said we screwed up our kids. They all want to be celebrities. Is that what you said? I'm just messing. Just kidding. For those
they want to be special. They want to be treated special. And Al, you and I know that. I mean,
well, you just described my kids. Oh boy, I got some work to do. No, I got you. No, I understand it. And the personas that how do they tie into this?
The personas at the end is key. What we have today is when we look at companies transforming their businesses using AI and machine learning, it's a team sport at the end. So you cannot have AI without IA. So IA is all about the whole information architecture that they have in place, being able to pull all these silos of data, but then a key aspect of that being that it's data in place. Don't move all this data around, because technology is there today, such as cool data virtualization technology that IBM brings to bear, that keeps data in place, but brings the data together at the point when you want to get those insights in. So a persona of a data engineer comes in to help you get that data pulled together, but then both where you can get those data out, normalized and stored in what people call as an enterprise data lake, or on demand, pulling the data, the real-time data out through data virtualization technologies into a data scientist who then wants to go build the models. But then, what does data scientist build a model on? It's the business analyst who has the business problems in mind. So at the end, if a data scientist is out there in vacuum building models that at the end has no impact to the business, those models are just going to be sitting there for academic purposes. So the business analyst collaborating with the data scientist at the end trying to solve a business problem, the data engineer in this particular case helping gather all the data, helping enable a unique shop for data experience to the data scientist is a huge part of this team sport. And at the end, you've got to finally get all of this out to the masses. So you have to really keep in mind that the marketing and the sales folks at the end are the ones that will eventually deliver this out to my customers. How do I get them engaged? How do I go across this ecosystem and put all these guys together working in a team sport?
So, one thing you've also said, and I don't know that I necessarily agree with, I got to tell you, so I want your explanation on this. I get exactly what you just said. Data scientist leads the business analyst. You got to have both those personas. You had said that on the degrees, you're seeing kids come out with a computer science degree, a modeling, essentially like a data science degree, and then a business background. Are you really seeing all those three together and not as separate disciplines? I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't often find, new hires or new talent that have all three of those different disciplines. But you're saying you're seeing them all come out with that under one umbrella? Let
me just again clarify that. Okay. Ideally, in a world where we're all trying to get people wearing multiple hats and wearing multiple roles, at the end, if you look at a data scientist that has strong business acumen and business background, that's like the most sought after, and those data scientists with that strong business background, you'd be amazed, actually today demand 7-figure salaries. Those are the guys, are the gods of the specific companies because they help transform those. That is
that's like
rarer.
A unicorn, though.
Yeah, a unicorn, like a unicorn, exactly. And that's why data scientists of those kinds are compared to a unicorn. Seldomly found, but very few out there who have that skill, and they demand hefty salaries today. However, when I said a team sport, I didn't mean the same individual wearing all the 3 hats. I meant these 3 different roles coming with 3 different backgrounds working together in a platform that helps them work together and collaborate in, like what IBM is building from the AI foundation ladder with what you call as ICP for data. The whole objective there is to get this ecosystem of these role players to work together in that environment to enable them so that at the end they're transforming businesses with AI.
All right. Good explanation. I got it now. Now all these kids that are listening to us that are all about experience, they should try to be unicorns because they can make a ton of money. That's what you just said, right?
Absolutely.
All right, good. Hey, couple other things on terminology where I've seen you talk, and just to get this out, and then I want to go into some use cases that you and I have done. AI versus cognitive. I hear the terms interchangeably. I know that IBM has traditionally used cognitive, but I think we're used both. I think, but the rest of the market tends to use AI solely. Any comments to that?
No, again, this is something that our CEO, Ginny, has really branded AI from IBM's perspective to it. The reason she likes the word cognitive more is at the end, the AI without that human interaction, which is really the core part of the cognitive, is in many ways not enabled for businesses. Yes, you could be looking at autonomous driving. Now, that's part of an industry that's consumer-oriented, that heavily is, at the end, machine taking over the entire driving experience for you. I recently was in one of these dream car events, and but with all the, great experience of autonomous cars, I would still want to be the one pressing that throttle and getting that unique driving experience, driving one of those, those really, really cool cars that I just drove a couple of days ago. So IBM's perspective is we are enterprise-centric, right? We take a view of how enterprises today see transformations happen. And to us, those enterprise transformations are not something that are just pure consumer plays into AI. These are where you core transforming business processes. There will be some business processes where automation will come in, but in many of the business processes at the core, you will still have humans driving it. And it's the AI that will enable the humans to do their job better, right? So there are certain things that AI will enable those humans to do, and it's that aspect of the AI, the cognitive aspects of the AI, that we believe will drive a lot of the key transformations moving forward.
All right, I got it. It's kind of like pilots, and nothing against pilots. I got a lot of friends that are pilots. But I hear some in the business would just say that they're there for comfort. So think about that the next time that you plane, because the things can almost take off, or they can take off, fly, and land by themselves these days. It's all around us. Hey, I wanted to talk about you and I have visited clients together. Not even really in a past life. This wasn't so long ago, and I thought I kind of dived down on one of the visits we did because I thought it was very interesting. It's a very large retailer, and they're looking at to overuse the term again is to really pursue the ladder to AI. They're looking at getting AI models in place, or at least machine learning models in place to essentially save money and cost, to find problems that they didn't even know existed, et cetera, et cetera. But this is like a perfect case study. When you and I went there, they outlined some of their strategy, but to help with that strategy, we had done a lot of interviews, or our teams had done a lot of interviews with some of their teams to figure out where their problems really reside. So when you and I went there, we met with the CEO, and we met with the entire C-suite, which was a little bit unique in that it's very seldom do you get the entire C-suite there, because somebody's always busy traveling or something. The entire C-suite was there, undivided attention. And when we, to get the discussion going, we talked about the maturity curve and try to figure out where they are from a data governance perspective. And quickly, as within all discussions, we got to the problem-solving phase and how we could use ML to solve the problems. And we threw several business cases out there that we thought they might be interested in. And I want to talk about those business cases very quickly, but for the audience here to say, it was interesting when we had this discussion, we talked about the business cases, but as always, did come back, and I won't cover this today unless we head this direction, but it did come back to the data, and honestly, their data was a mess, and there's a lot of work that had to be done to really make the business cases I'm about to go through of value. But to stay on point, so we threw several business cases out there. I mean, this is kind of the standard process. One was predictive personalized marketing. Second one was increased tech efficiency while on site. So when their techs are on site, they're efficient. They drive down time to resolution, particularly on site, which is a costly endeavor. Number three, we eliminated cost of obsolete technology. They had a lot of maintenance costs associated with aging technology. Number four, they wanted to reduce calls, just like any call center. They wanted to significantly reduce either through self-help or otherwise, they wanted to reduce the calls that are coming in that obviously drive up costs and take away from some of the higher end issues they need to deal with. And the last one, I don't even know what number I'm on. Am I on 5? On 5, I think it was customer churn and warranties. They wanted to make sure that they avoided churn because their churn after the first year was like over half. It was like over 50%. So, you know, you have visited a ton of the clients, and from your perspective, are those, two questions. The first question, are those some of the standard use cases you see? I guess it depends on what field we're talking about, but are those the standard use cases you see? And second part of that question is, what is the most common use case that you see?
Very, very good question, Al. Again, I agree. Some of the 5 use cases that you mentioned, I can pick 2 there that's common across many of these industries, across many of the clients I visit. One being the idea of that customer journey through a contact center. So we used to traditionally call it the call center, but today that's morphing out into a broader journey where that contact could be through a chatbot, that contact could be through an email interaction, that contact could be through a phone conversation where you pick up the phone and call a call center. So that broad space of that interaction that a client has with a company is a horizontal problem across industries where AI makes a big impact. The other problem that you often find, again, from that loyalty aspect, from getting a stickier customer who loves that unique experience that you provide them, and hence they're less likely to leave your platform, is on the churn side of it. So those 2 use cases definitely resonates across many clients when I talk to them. And I remember when you and I were there, and you said the entire C-suite, the CEO, the CMO, the COO were all sitting there. And as you can imagine, in a retail space where there is huge disruption happening that we're all aware of, they had their crown jewels still. They had the crown jewels because this retailer sells big appliances. At the end, those big appliances need repairs. At the end, they need to be able to get better engagement of those repair guys getting to the client's house to fix it, not landing up there and says, oops, I got the wrong part here, let me come back. And too bad, you got a hot 120, 110 degrees summer day out there and your AC is just flipped. And the guy says, I'm going to come back a week later. You're going to have a customer churn on you right there. So it ties up together, right? So at the end, that idea of being able to track a consumer to their journey across the interaction points is often today a very well sought after use case. So I've seen that with financial customers. A very large bank, turns out when their calls come in today to the call center for the credit cards, they classify those as general inquiry. The business doesn't care about general inquiry. Business wants to know more. Was it about increasing the APR on my credit card? Was it about, not increasing the APR, rather reducing the APR, but increasing my credit limit on the credit card? Or is it about just complaining that you just got charged with a fee because you were on vacation and you forgot to make that last payment? So finding the intent of the caller, and guess what? Whenever these conversations happen, it starts off with an intent that you thought it started off with, but at the end, it's a conversation. And during the conversation, based on how it steers towards, multiple intents show up. So having an aspect of a real-time intent tracking so that you can intervene with the right offers and the right discussion points from the agent on the other end is what across industries everyone is looking into. So we've seen that in the financial example I gave you. We've seen that with a large healthcare payer, in this case, they're payer and a provider. So when customers call in and call about eligibility, what is my copay on this particular physician? How do I go about seeing a specialist? Do I need in this case, a prior auth? Are certain medications covered in my formulary? At the same time, someone who calls in for an urgent reason to get an urgent appointment because they just had, a bad flu attack or whatever, and they need to get an urgent appointment. The call center, in this case, is handling calls of all different types for this healthcare, and some could be just bill disputes, right? I thought my bill was XYZ, but look, you charged me something else altogether. That engagement of the client with that call center becomes key for this healthcare provider. And then think about this specific retailer that you mentioned. For them, there were two-pronged aspects to how the CEO's attention got caught in this. One was this guy who goes into the house to repair something, and he realized, oops, I don't think I know how to fix this. So then he goes to his truck, and if you've seen that, it's happened to me with some of my appliance repair guys. They go sit in the truck, and they're not just sitting there talking to their friends and buddies. They're sitting there actually to their buddies back in the back office, trying to get technical expertise on how to go fix the problem. And today, getting that right expert on the line, being able to diagnose the problem quick, and getting that repair guy back to the house to fix the issue is what the CEO cared about most, because every minute that the repair guy spends there takes him away from the next job and the next job. So they want to be compacting as many repair jobs they can do on a daily basis. And then at the end, I call in with a problem about my appliance, and then the cross-selling aspect that, I might have an older appliance that I didn't even call about that right now has an amazing offer that if I take advantage of, I can get that second appliance, I can get a nice deal out there to get because large appliances always are deal shopping. I don't know about you, every time I look for a large appliance, I'm always looking for that Thanksgiving sale or looking for the Labor Day sale, the right deal where I can get a nice good deal at. So being able to make those cross-sell offers, again, through that customer engagement, that call center, being able to, of course, solve my issue about why I called about, is that unique experience that the retailer in this case wanted to give back to their clients. So both from the consumer and from their technicians who go out to the houses, they wanted to see an advantage across the board, and that's what caught the CEO's attention for his biggest bang for the buck. So if he went about implementing AI, he thought by making a dent on that business process would immediately have a payback for him.
Well, cross-selling is huge. I was reading a book the other day that was talking about the human mentality where we'll take action more quickly on missing out of something than just opportunity in general. In other words, we think we're going to miss out and we've got a finite time to do that, we'll jump right in and pull the trigger. So if you can you essentially make that cross-sell, and with the knowledge that you have, you're already there, et cetera, that's big business. But I want to ask at least 3 questions. I always do a little bit of a lightning round to get to know Avijit. So if you wouldn't mind, 3 questions, anything goes, just like a 1 minute or less answer. You game? Just 3 questions?
Yep, let's do it.
All right. What does a day in the life look like for you, man? I mean, what is your normal day? What time you get up? What do you do? I mean, how do you lead? How do you make things work?
I get up pretty early. Usually it's the 6 to 7-ish. I catch a train to the city. Now that I'm very client-facing, often I have different meetings through the day that are in my mind. How exactly am I going to go pitch? You find me on LinkedIn. Before every meeting, this is a rigorous thing I follow. I go find out more about the customer I'm about to meet, because understanding what they have done in their background lets you have an engaging discussion with them. I read about what is that company doing in that space that I'm going to just talk to this person about. That gets me more engaged at the same time. And then, just the day passes with meetings after meetings. Get back in the evening, and you would be amazed, for me, a guy who never had a pet. My wife finally convinced me to get a Labrador. We have a yellow lab. It's sweetest thing ever. For me, my relaxation and my exercise, I wish I could go to the gym more often, is just taking my yellow lab for a walk in the evening when I get back home.
You say that you use LinkedIn when you're learning. What other avenues or what other venues do you get some of your knowledge from? Because you've maintained it for a long time.
I would say absolutely online. I'm heavily engaged online, and I learn a lot through that. Of course, I constantly challenge myself to learn on new stuff that's out there, and especially, I have an amazing, I would say very fortunate to have some amazing mentees that I've been guiding over the last several years. We, as part of the data science elite team, we're very fortunate to bring in some top-notch data scientists out there. They come in from the academic world. We get to hear and listen to what they've been studying out there in the academic world. So that has given me an amazing chance to really know what these guys are studying about, but at the same time influence their curriculum, being able to make them more on the domain side. So just last summer, I worked with an intern who came in and from Columbia, had some ideas about reinforcement learning, but was looking for a problem. So then we said, well, let's go look at machine trading. But then I guided her with my background in finance to be able to do that. Led to a patent out of that work, and we had some amazing feedback when we presented it to some clients here in Wall Street. So it was really a fun journey for me. So yes, they're heavily online, reaching out to my peers and my colleagues, and kind of creating that constant learning environment, working together.
Well, the cool thing about you, obviously, you're doing mentorship right, because I believe in like 3 mentors. One is like maybe a technical mentor or directly in your discipline. Second one is a career mentor, and the third one is strategic to get you where you want to be. That may be one of the first 2, but it could be different as well. And if you're doing it right, you learn often more from the protege or the mentee more than you're teaching. So good for you. Hey, let me ask another one here for the third one. What is the best leadership advice you ever received?
I would say put yourself as the trusted advisor to the client, like especially when you're in a client-facing leadership role. Don't try to go with a hammer looking for a nail. Listen to the client. Listening is a big part of leadership, because if you got to make a real difference in the space that you're in, you got to be a good listener. You've got to be able to put yourself in the shoes of your client, and then from there really build that trust of the client on you. Once you do that, it really helps make it a much smoother journey moving forward, because then you are able to really earn that person's trust and then work together to be able to make each other life beneficial.
Hey man, this has been great. There's some podcasts you do that are just easy, and this is one of them. I appreciate all the knowledge that you bring, Avijit. Where can folks reach you if they want? They have comments, questions? Are you on LinkedIn? Is that a good spot? Or
Absolutely. I'm on LinkedIn for sure. They can look me up, Avijit Chatterjee. I'm at Twitter, @ChatterAvijit is the handle. My email, achatter@us.ibm.com. So any of these works just fine for me.
All right, fantastic. Thank you for being on again. This has been great. We'll put that in the show notes. Thank you once again. And anything we missed? I think we got it all, right?
Absolutely.
All right, thank you. And for those listeners out there, again, give us feedback. Let us know what you want to hear about. Until next time, I'll see you later.
Thanks for listening to the Making Data Simple podcast, where we make data fun. Be sure to visit ibmbigdatahub.com/podcasts to access the show notes and uncover even more great episodes. Remember, the views expressed here are those of the host and its guests and do not necessarily represent the views of IBM. Until next time, over and out.